Oh look, I just noticed that my microphone was muted. Isn't that great? Yeah, very professional setup here. You know how I do it here. So welcome everybody. I've been gone for a minute and now I'm back. There's a couple reasons for that, and so I just wanted to let everybody know and get some updates as well. So I haven't been on since probably about a week and a couple days, and there's a couple reasons for that. As you can see, I'm in the same room, but I have a little bit of a different setup now. And I had to bring my desk in here because I was using a standing desk and it was just a bit much. It was a standing only desk, so there was no, how do you say, there's no way for it to go down. It was just an old work cart that I had in the garage. I was working out of the garage, but with this heat, it's just been getting too hot, essentially. And so what I did was I brought my work desk from the office where I was and brought it into the guest room and rearranged things a bit. And it's nice because now the computer's plugged in directly to the router. I have much better speed. I'm able to stream at a better quality, so that's good. And yeah, the so the garage is just getting too hot, and the so Southern California finally decided to have a summer. So the summer kicked in, and here we are. We've been hitting consistent 90s, even hitting 100 every once in a while. So for you Celsius folks, it's going to be in the I believe mid 30s, maybe high 30s. So yeah, it's been pretty rough. And even in this room, it gets pretty hot. Uh, you know, we had the AC going, and with this heat, like it's on a lot. And then having these big headphones doesn't help. It's like I'm wearing earmuffs during the summer, and yeah, like even this is uncomfortable a little bit, but I'm gonna push through. Flip flops are the way to go. I don't know if they can be seen down here. I'm in the way. See, it's mirrored, but I got my flip flops on. Definitely a lot nicer. Oh look, I didn't transition to the full screen. Once again, super fail. So hang on, let me turn off my timer text. Here we go. So yeah, what else is new? So it's been super hot, and I have been working not as much as I'd like. You know, one thing, one reason why I'm here on the stream today is because streaming has actually helped me consistently work. If I don't stream, I find myself taking uh, maybe extended breaks, or I don't hop on when I should, or I'll hop off a little too early. And so I like the fact that streaming every day is kind of helping me work. Um, you know, so that's a benefit of streaming, and so I don't want to give that up. I was struggling a bit because like the channel's not really growing. I mean, I've only been doing the streaming thing for maybe about a month. I mean, I've been streaming off and on Twitch forever, but it's never been a serious thing. And usually after a few weeks, I'll stop just because half the time I'm talking to myself. If I'm even talking, I was looking back at old streams when I was streaming games and I wasn't even talking at all. So there's like no engagement at all. So I can see why people weren't very aching to or wanting to follow and stuff like that. So I've been trying to keep that in mind. I'm you know, if you go back through the past streams, talking out loud, even when I'm by myself, helps a lot because I could actually get or how do I put this? Because I'm talking out loud and I'm working through problems, it actually helps instead of me sticking or keeping in my head. So because I do have I mean it's undiagnosed, but I have some ADHD going on. You know, my mind's all over the place. I can't really focus on one thing for too long. But I found that if I'm talking on the stream and I'm talking through a problem, then yeah, like it actually works out pretty well. So that's been pretty nice. Um, so yeah, so I think I'm gonna keep doing that, and that's one reason why I'm back here and I'm streaming. Um, so yeah, so there's that. So I will be streaming again. I don't know how regular. Um, I have been making. Uh, I don't know if I announced this before, but I started a YouTube channel and I started recording tutorials. Well, yeah, I mentioned it because I recorded one, I believe, on here. And so yeah, so I have a link in my about page. If you go to my YouTube channel, Azteca Games on YouTube, um, I've put together 3 tutorials so far on tile maps. As I learn these nodes and whatnot, I want to put these videos together to kind of help grow the audience and help people out there that are having or new to Godot and need some help there. So hopefully those videos help. They're not too complicated. You know, I'm not an advanced Godot user. I've only been using Godot this year, and I'm getting better at it every day, of course. But you know, this stuff takes a while to learn and be fully efficient with the software. So another thing I'm trying to do is stare at the camera a little more. So hopefully that comes through here. I've always been a little nervous when looking into a camera, you know. So I figure maybe the more I do it, the more comfortable I'll get with it. So yeah, so go check out the YouTube channel. There's a link in my about section down below, so feel free to go check that out, but not right now, not during the stream. Check it out afterwards, or have both running at the same time. And make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel to make sure you get notified when there's new videos out. And right now I'm working on a series on tile maps. So I have the 3rd video that I put out yesterday that kind of covers 2 things, not just the occlusion layer in the tile map node or in the tile set, but also lighting, because there, you know, you can add an occlusion layer to your tile map, but if you don't have any lights, then you're not going to see the effects of the occlusion layer. So it's a bit longer video, but I go over that pretty well, I think. Let me know what you think in the comments for the video. So yeah, so another thing, another reason why I paused, not just because of the heat, because it's getting super uncomfortable to stream, especially in the afternoon once the heat really kicks in. I was struggling. You know, I'm not a programmer. This is all new to me. I've done a bunch of tutorials. I've done community college classes on introduction to programming in Java, and so, but this is like over years, right? So like, I've learned how to assign variables and set them up, and I've learned how functions work, but I never really like put them all together by myself in things, and then I struggled a bunch, and that was very apparent in the fantasy survivor videos, where sometimes I would just get stuck on something, and but yeah, but after, you know, I'd get stuck and I find myself in a dark place sometimes, and I'm like, man, what am I doing? You know, should I quit? Should I stop this? Should I go back to work? You know, is this gonna work out in the end? So all these things and more keep coming coming up in my head while I'm doing this, and it's kind of, I feel like it's part of the thing. You know, I mean, these are doubts that I had when I was an artist and as a UX designer. You know, I've been doing UX design now for just over 10 years, and sometimes I still question my skills. You know, especially when you run into somebody that, or you meet someone that's like so good at their job, and you're like, wow, I'm like pale in comparison to what this person is doing, and you kind of compare yourself to them, and it's not a good thing to do. It's good to like maybe say, oh, maybe I want to be more like that person, right? Like try to take a positive spin on that, you know, and I found that helps a lot for me, anyways. So so yeah, and so doing this programming stuff, I mean, it's hard, and I'm 45. You know, I just turned 45 in May, and it's like, you know, learning something, and I, you know, I joke about this being my midlife crisis, starting an indie thing and trying to do this this late in my life, but it's now or never type of deal. But you know, I'm not in a desperate situation. There's not a ton of stress as far as paying the bills and whatnot. So I still have some income coming in. There's some side jobs and whatnot. I'm just not doing it full time because I really want to dedicate my time to this. So so yeah, so if you're struggling, you know, it happens to all of us. It's okay. You just gotta keep going. You know, maybe step away from something and work on something else, and then maybe the solution will come to you. Or maybe just talk to someone, you know, if you know someone that's a developer, an engineer, or somebody that, you know, just run it by them. You know, I had a good chat with a buddy yesterday, someone I met at a Games UX Summit. Um, I don't know if he's comfortable with me sharing his name, so I'm just gonna leave that out for now. But we met several years ago at the first Games UX Summit over in North Carolina, and we've been chatting ever since. He actually came down to California a couple years ago, and my wife and I went down and met him down there for some beers, and that was pretty fun. And we kind of just chit chatted here and then. But I reached out to him because he said, you know, if there's anything I can help with, let me know. And I was thinking, well, you know, maybe, and I've had this idea before of maybe I need to outsource some programming. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm not a programmer, so maybe I need to finally ask for help. And I finally bit the bullet. It's something that I've been considering for months now, and I'm just like, do I want to spend money on hiring someone for these small projects, right? The main idea isn't to make nothing but small projects. I want to make a bigger project at some point, but I need to get my skills up to a good point to be able to do that and be confident going into that I can make the best game I can make. And so, you know, in the end, I want a game that people are going to pay me for, and I want the game to be good, and I want it to be with as little or few bugs or zero bugs if possible. But I mean, we all know how impossible that is. So yeah. So I talked to my buddy, and he's like, look, he was giving me this. He was telling me pretty much this is what he told me. He said, look, you're running into the same struggles engineers have that have been doing this for a long time, and I'm kind of like a junior developer right now, where you know, I've done the training, and now I'm going into a real world situation, right? Like I'm trying to build these games, and now, but I don't have anyone around me to kind of show me the ropes, and I think that's probably why I'm struggling. But that's another point. This is a separate topic, I feel. But yeah, so he was saying like this is something that happens, especially when you're trying to go from junior to like intermediate, you know, from beginner skills to intermediate, and those are the problems I'm having. And he says it's all right, it happens, you know. Just talking to somebody too, he was telling me will help a lot, you know, just shooting the shit, so to speak, or talking shop with somebody. That might help you figure it out, because maybe that other person has run into that issue before. You know, he mentioned hitting up Stack Overflow. He uses that all the time, and so that's something I'm going to have to start doing as well, because people do a pretty good job of answering questions there from what I've seen in the past. So we'll see. The other thing he was saying too, you know, he's more than happy to help if I have like a small problem. That's great, and he said I could just reach out to him. So that's pretty cool of him for that. So thanks go out to him for that. And you know, back to the original topic of possibly hiring someone for help. He said, you know, if it comes to a point where maybe I need help designing like a whole system or building a skeleton, you know, of a system, then we can talk about like pricing and whatnot. But if I just need someone to bounce ideas off of, he said he's more than happy to chit chat. So that's pretty awesome. You know, he's working on indie game. I mean, he's contracting for them. It's not his indie game, but this is kind of what he does. And he was saying he knows the struggle. He knows the struggle. So yeah. So you know, keep at it. Keep your chin up, and talk to people, ask questions, you know, don't give up. That's the biggest thing. This is why I'm back here today, because I'm not gonna give up on this. You know, it's hard. It's not gonna be easy. There's gonna be some points where you're like, what am I doing? Like I'm stuck. Like I literally on, I think it was Friday or was it Monday? I already forget. I'm like sitting here trying to figure, you know, work my way through a problem, and I'm like, what am I literally just said to myself, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, what happened? Where did it all go wrong? I should have found work right away and forget this whole dream, but that's not going to happen. I'm going to keep pushing through. So, if some of you have read my bio, you'll see that I was in the army before, and we don't give up, right? So just got to push through no matter what the obstacle. So, I guess the response is, you know, I'm having those doubts. I had those doubts. I will continue to have those doubts. I have no doubt in my mind that I will be doubting myself in the future. It's just part of the game. So yeah, so that's where that is. Um, and I'm just gonna keep pushing through. And I hope you join me on the rest of this journey because I don't want to stop. I want to make this game that I have in my head. I already have the design out, the basics. In the meantime, I put down Fantasy Survivor. I said, okay, I really need to stop working on that. I was learning more as I kept going because I'm like, well, now I learned how to use data from a spreadsheet and implement it in the game, and that's super helpful, right? But also, what's good and what I've been seeing online too is people saying like, just work on a bunch of small things. Maybe not everything has to be a full game. So like Lord Darkfrog's like a little small mini game, just like Fantasy Survivor was supposed to be, but also work on gameplay mechanics, because that's where you're going to get that practice in and really learn a lot of things. If you work on a game from start to finish, it's like, okay, well, do you really want to spend time on like main menus and option screens and all this stuff that goes into a full game? Or you can work on a little gameplay mechanic and throw that up on itch and see what people think and see how people respond to it, and also just to get that mechanic done and out of the way, and it's like, oh, you learn how to do it, you push through. It's one of the tips my buddy said was like, just kind of do it, just get it to work, take little small steps. And I'm like, yeah, it's true, because when I would sit there and try to do a bunch of stuff at once, it's just overwhelming, especially as a new engineer. And from what he's saying, even as an experienced engineer, you don't want to just go at it and throw everything at, including the kitchen sink, at the problem. You want to start in small bite-sized chunks, and that's where I've had some success, is where I start breaking things down into small steps. For instance, I was struggling on doing something very basic that maybe a more experienced engineer could just knock out, right? But trying to figure it out on my own, I had more success when I start introducing those print statements in there and be like, okay, hey, look, I'm in the collision. The collision's happening because the print message is going off. Okay, now that happened, move that print message to something else. Now I hit the button. Oh, the button's not registering when I'm colliding. So, taking those little steps. You know, it's slow. It's fine. You're starting out. I'm new. You might be new. And these are things you just gotta do. That it's hard to find. Let's say like in a book or something, right? Like I just bought a bunch of books, by the way, and I'm gonna get into this in a second. But like I just bought this C Sharp coding book. So programming C Sharp 10, build cloud web and desktop applications from O'Reilly, and it's by Ian Griffiths, and I recommend doing something like that. I kind of jumped ahead of the game. I wanted to go ahead and start making these games in Godot. I thought, with these having the basics down of like variables and methods and loops and stuff like that, that I'd be able to just go forward, right? But then you get into a game engine, and then games have their is a whole nother beast, right? And so I feel like one thing I need to do is really just learn programming, like get a language and just learn that one language. And I know I've been using GDScript, and I'm moving forward, like I'm making stuff, right? Like you see Fantasy Survivor, like not everything that's in Fantasy Survivor was in the tutorial that I got it from. I added a bunch of stuff either from other tutorials or just figuring it out on my own, and so, but I think not having a full understanding of how a programming language works, I think is hurting. So this is so to move on to the next topic. It's I'm gonna kind of, after the retro I did for Fantasy Survivor, and I don't know if everything got captured on the retro. You can check the retro out in in my backlog there of my VODs. It should be labeled. But anywho, one of the things that I was thinking of was like, outside of just the game, what else didn't go well, or that I could have improvement in, and that was really my programming, and my math. Sure, you might not use math all the time, especially advanced math, but it helps. Like just being able to manipulate and move things around in a cool dynamic manner. Like okay, uh, I might not need to learn calculus and all this advanced stuff, or maybe I do. I don't know, right? I don't know what I don't know. I can make simple games, and I can try to make games that are around my skill set, which I think is a good practice, and that's what I'm kind of doing with Lord Darkfrog. But even now, I'm having some issues here. So yeah, I'm picking C sharp just because if this doesn't pan out and I do have to go back to work, I've worked in Unity before and I'm familiar with setting up prefabs and setting up prototypes for people and menus and all this stuff. But I feel like if I really learn C sharp and after learning GD script, and I feel like if and when I go back to the workforce, I'm going to be so much better at it, and it's all just going to help me in the end, you know. And so yeah, so I picked up that one. I'm slowly working through it. I also picked up some math courses on Udemy so I can get my math skills back to what they were in high school and beyond because I wasn't a great student in school either, and I've always had struggle with learning. I mentioned earlier the ADHD thing. I've always had trouble focusing. I mean, I was like a C average student my whole life. I repeated the 11th grade. Like I was an 11th grader twice. You know, uh, I didn't become a senior until like the last 2 weeks of my senior year, and like I show up to homeroom and people are like, "Yeah, I remember that guy. Shouldn't he have been here the whole time?" But yeah. But that's a story for another time. Like I found success in video games. Even with the school stuff. Eventually, joining the army kind of flipped a switch in me, and now I charge into these things that I know are going to be hard, but I go for it anyway, and I think that's what I just get from all of this. I'm going to keep struggling, and I'm going to keep running into hard things, and but the idea is to just keep going. Don't give up. It's going to be hard. Nothing's easy. Game dev is not easy. Software development is not easy. You know, from the outside in, people are like, "Oh, you're just making games. It's just fun, right?" Or you should just do websites. Websites are super easy, but like that's a lot of ignorance right there. Um, but yeah, it's all difficult. Yeah, I just like spit everywhere in that little laugh. That's cool. Glad that was on this capture. So yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but yeah, so that doing that retro, I was like, I need to work on my programming, I need to work on my math, and also pick up more game design skills. Like doing that stuff with the with Google Sheets and everything. I thought that was super cool, and I'm sure there's lots of other tricks and everything that I need to figure out. So it's a learning process, and I'm just gonna keep doing that. So yeah, and that'll all be here. I might do a lot of it offline. Like I mentioned earlier, I started doing YouTube videos, and I feel like Tuesdays I might take off. I still really need to set a schedule. Like I don't have a steady streaming schedule. I've been trying to do Monday through Friday 9 to 5 type of deal, just because it keeps me going. But maybe I'll take a day or two off to make like a video, or just to work on stuff without getting too distracted. Especially if my wife needs help with something around the house and whatnot, or if there's a something or something that needs my attention. Sorry, I'm just checking my messages because I have the gardener coming in soon. So, but yeah, so there's that. Um, push through the hard times. It's gonna be rough. You just gotta keep going. Um, and it sounds simple enough, right? But it's tough, man. It's emotionally draining. I was stressing out when I was in here last week, and I'm sitting here going like, "What am I doing? I'm struggling with something that should be so easy, right?" Then I watch a video and someone knocks it out in like 10 minutes. But who knows how long they spent getting that video together, and who knows how long they've been doing the game dev thing, and we're able to knock that out. So yeah, so there's always more to a story than what gets led on. So yeah, just being honest with you there. So hopefully that helps. If you're in the same situation, just keep pushing through. Um, what else? Yeah. So another thing that happened. So I think I left off with the last stream saying that I wanted to go back and finish that GDD, but the next day I ended up actually, and this is the first day I didn't stream. I actually ended up just putting the GDD down. I was like, well, it's got a good idea of what I want to do and a lot of good details in there. but I was anxious to go ahead and get started, and I actually started working on Lord Darkfrog. So yeah, so I can show you what I got going. Let me just pick up the correct screen here. There we go. And so, Lord Darkfrog, here we go. Let's give it a second. So here we go. You can see all this coding that I've done. I'm just playing. It's funny, there's like nothing in here. So let me hit play. Go ahead and maximize this so y'all have a better view. Oh, let me turn off visible collision shapes. So I started working on the game. I've adjusted Lord Darkfrog based on feedback from my wife that he didn't look like a frog. It's still a little buggy, but like I mentioned it before, I was trying to do all the artwork on a single tile map, and this is what I got out of that. You know, oh, here we go. So there's a bench, right? And you can walk by the bench, and the appropriate action will populate on top of the frog. The next thing I need to do is figure out how to get him to sit, and that's where I'm going to start doing today. But I've got the river going over here. You see it has the animated sprites going, and so I can walk along here, and you see just the water kind of moseying along. These are all tiles at the moment, these empty planter boxes. But yeah, I implemented the walk, which I think is pretty funny. I kind of like it. The little frog steps too. I try to make the steps sound a little wet, but it's but yeah, I thought the walk cycle is pretty funny. But the goal today is to get him to actually sit on the bench and kind of go from there. Maybe even implement the stamina bar and have it decrement in some way so that the bench actually recuperates your stamina as intended. So, but the stamina system touches a bunch of other things, and so it's not going to be 100% implemented. It's just step by step, like I mentioned earlier. So keep it simple. So yeah, so you'll be able to walk through here. I set this up. I added a vignette to here to give it a little bit of a darker feel. You know, makes it feel like you're in a bit of a swamp or something. You know, this is supposed to be a grim dark game after all. But the only grim dark part of it is that the frog eventually dies no matter what you do. So there's not really anything else to it other than that. So yeah, but I did put the stage together, so it's just going to be a single stage, and I'll have these objects that I can interact with. But yeah, this is where I'm at. There was a jump in here at some point, but I think I disabled the jump button yesterday because the idea wasn't to let him jump. You know, he's retired. He doesn't jump anymore. This frog don't jump no more. You know, he's over that stuff. It's too much. He's older. He's retired. There's the donation box. You know, dropping off crops and stuff in here will increase your happiness levels because you're donating it to your kingdom and to your people. So so yeah, so there's Darkfrog. That's where that is right now. Let's go back to full screen. So so yeah, so there's Darkfrog. So I did start on that, and I got all that, and then I got to implement the interactions, and then that's where I got stuck essentially. So that's and then that's where I started doubting everything, and it was just a downward spiral, and it was all doom and gloom. But then another thing that happened, and that's leading into on Friday. So I did manage to pick up some consulting work, and that'll help keep these projects going. It's very, very, very part-time. It's only going to eat up maybe 5 hours a week, which is great because I really want to focus on my games. So I don't want to take on more than a day or so from the week. You know, especially if I'm also going to take another day for making videos for the YouTube channel that realistically is only giving me 3 days a week to work on a project. So what's going to happen with the YouTube channel? I don't know. I mean, YouTube seems to be pretty good. I'm just gonna keep going at it. Some of the videos don't take me too long. What takes long is like kind of really learning the flow for a feature in and out, and then being confident enough to shoot the video in maybe 10 to 20 minutes, cut it down a little bit, and then put that out. Like I don't want to be one of those YouTubers that makes a tutorial on something and is kind of figuring it out as they go, which I guess isn't a bad thing because that's how people learn as well. Like if you're messing on your own, you know, a lot of people will go on their own and just, and I totally recommend that. You want to look at documentation, you want to like poke around and mess with settings and stuff. Um, so yeah, but I just don't want to be doing that on stream. You know, I do that enough on the Twitch chat or in the Twitch channel here. I don't want to do that in the tutorial videos. I feel like someone's looking for a video, they want to just be shown how to do it. You know, if I make a mistake in there, I might leave it in there, but I'm trying to keep it like to as few as possible and keep it nice and precise. So so yeah, so there's that. So there's progress on. I'm just looking at my notes here. So that's progress on Lord Darkfrog. Um, what else? There's the consulting work, like I mentioned, and that kind of goes back to the schedule. You know, having no schedule at the moment. So I'm gonna have to figure something out. Maybe it's 3 days a week, especially if I'm gonna be consulting. I can't really be showing that work online, and that I feel is going to be more me preparing documents and stuff for a company. They want someone that can, it's pretty much like a director role, because they want someone that can help them set up a research process. You know, like I mentioned, I'm a UX designer by trade for games, and yeah, and I've been doing it for a while now, and this is the first time I'm going somewhere where they feel, and I feel like I'm ready for a bigger role. You know, having more to say with UX design at a company. They seem serious about wanting to start research and whatnot, and I feel like they're doing it the right way, and that's why I took the job. I try to stay away from places that don't have a UX director or a manager of some sort, because if they're just relying like on a junior or a mid or a senior, you know, that's too much. I've been in those situations, especially when I was just starting out, and you don't want to be that person. You'll learn a lot, sure. I mean, if you have no other choice or options, you know, take the gig, but you know, don't do it for too long. Try to go somewhere else afterwards, because you know, if you're there by yourself, you're kind of just winging it. And I feel because UX maturity levels across the industry are pretty low, you're gonna end up just doing a lot of wireframes, and that's not UX design. You know, UX design is about research and getting to know your users, and putting your game or your app in front of users and letting them use it, and seeing how they use it, and seeing where they're struggling, seeing getting to know what their needs are. It's not just designing wireframes, you know, a million times, and that's it, you know. And I feel like in games, you see this a lot in job postings. You'll see UX UI. We need a UX UI designer, but you're just gonna be doing UI. They should just call it a user interface designer role. I don't know why there's such a push against that. I mean, I feel like the two disciplines are separate. You know, they're two different disciplines. So but I mean, that's another video. Let me know if you'd like to hear me rant on that for a bit. Um, so yeah, so there's that. That kind of went off of my scheduling thing, but going back to the schedule, see, there's the. I feel like that's the ADHD where I'm just kind of jumping around a bit. So the schedule, yeah, I have to figure out a schedule. I'm trying to do Monday through Friday, but also, you know, I'm not alone here at home. I have wife and child at home, and I need to be around for them too. I mean, at the same time, I'm treating this like work. So, but sometimes things come up, and that's just how it is with family life. So we'll see. Hopefully, I have a schedule soon, and then I can make this a little more regular. So, so yeah. So I feel like I've covered everything on my list. I just wanted to give everybody an update. You know, I don't have a lot of viewers, but I thought it was worth explaining why I kind of just dropped off for about a week. The heat's been killing me. Even in here, like it's been pretty rough. And I like to drink my morning tea, but like It's I don't know what time it is, 9 something, 10 o'clock, and it's already pretty warm. I think it's already 80 degrees outside, and it's only 10 in the morning. Excuse me. So 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 yeah, here I am. Rearranged the setup. Tweaked my camera a bit. I think it looks pretty nice. Hopefully that helps with the stream. Um, I'm not going to be standing up anymore all day. I feel like maybe I do need to get a standing desk because I kind of do miss being able to stand up and having that ability. So I think it'd be great to maybe swap this desk out. I mean, it's super old. I have a hard time letting go of old things. It's kind of what I got. Sorry, Mom, but I feel like I got this from you. This is hoarding, you know? I have a hard time letting the old stuff go because it's like, oh, but maybe I'll use it later, you know. And don't do that. Don't do that because then you're gonna be like me, where you get to 45 years old and your garage is full of crap and you can't even put your cars in the garage. So yeah, we'll see. I want to replace this desk. Thomas Brush just put out a video of his like ideal workstation, and he got a really nice standing desk. And I'm like, oh, I'm kind of jealous. It's cool. It has a cradle for the PC. I kind of bounce back and forth between PC and a Mac. I prefer to work on a Mac. I like the OS better, but there's also some benefits to using Windows. Um, but like yesterday, right now I only have my Windows machine set up, and I was editing a video, and this machine's a bit older. I mean, I'm rocking a 1080 in here, and it's struggling with video editing. You know, even just cutting a video up was taxing on this thing. But my Mac, that's a lot newer and has the M1 chip, just kind of slices through those videos like it's like a hot knife through butter. It's like no problem. So I need to figure out a situation to figure this all out, and I think I might look into what Thomas Brush has set up. The My only problem with that is that it's going to eat into the budget I've kind of set aside for Azteca Games and what I want to do with it, but it could be worth it. I feel because the other thing too with the PC, you know, having this big old box here, like the window's right here behind this curtain. The sun's, I mean, it's hot on this side of the house. There's no shade. There's a wall with in the neighbor's house on the other side, but even the trees they have, it's all in the back, and so there's no shade on this side. So I just get so much heat, and then being in here, like my wife was noticing, I moved the work cart to the master bedroom when my mom was visiting. She usually stays in this room, and she was staying in here, so I moved my computer over to the bedroom, and my wife was like, "Whoa, like it got really hot in there just from having the computer in there and having it running all day." So yeah, I need to figure something out. When I have the MacBook, it's a lot smaller footprint, and yes, it gets warm, but not like this big old hunk of junk. So, I mean, this thing's great, but like it's like, yeah, it gets warm. You know, we're out in pretty much what should be a desert. We just lie to ourselves and overwater our grass and tell ourselves that it's it's not the desert, but it's the desert pretty much. And it gets pretty hot here, so I'll have to figure something out. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that update. Maybe I'll chop that up and put that out on the YouTube channel later. Just a big update to everyone. So if you're watching this on YouTube later, thanks for stopping by, and make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It's going to help a lot. It's going to help with reach and everything while I try to grow an audience to hopefully give you all a game that you want to play. But that's going to be later. You know, for now, I'm just going to keep making these small games. I'm going to keep pushing through. You're going to see me struggle on here. Dude, man, I was ready to give up last week, and it happened once too on in early when I started this thing. It creeps up every once in a while, you know. It happens, but you got to push through, no matter what. Keep going. Do not give up on yourself. You know, I'm here rooting for you if no one else is. So just do it. You know, I hate to sound cliche, but just do it and push through it, and you can do it. So if I can do it, you know, two-time 11th grader, barely graduated out of high school, you can do it too. So here I am. If you were to tell me, you know, 25, 30 years ago when I was a teen that I was going to be working in games and I was going to have a successful career in games and I was going to be making games from a bedroom, you know, like on my downtime. I wouldn't believe you, but here we are. So dreams can happen. You know, I'm trying something different. I'm always trying something different, and this is really hard. And I'm gonna struggle. It happens, but push forward. We can do this. All right. So I'm gonna take a break. I've been chatting now. Oh, look at that, 45 minutes on the dot. Perfect. So I'm gonna take a short break, and then I will be back and continue working on Lord Darkfrog. So again, if you're watching this later on YouTube, thanks again, and we'll see you at the next one. Otherwise, Twitch stream, I will see you in a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out. I'll be back in a bit. Peace.